Alright, here's the first step of making my hydrogen HHO wet cell. I got some 2-gang stainless steel mulberry plates. I think it's part number 97152. About 15 of them. And they're about $2 a piece. I'm going to be using 12 in this cell, 1 per volt. Hopefully we'll find out what happens. And I have a custom rigged up old baby drill here to a lithium battery pack, but that's a whole other deal. I'm going to be using that to drill these holes out and making them a little larger. I'm going to make them 1/4 inch because I'm going to be building my wet cell with this. This is nylon stock, and it's all 1/4 inch. So I need to make the holes in these plates larger to accept them. The reason I'm building it all out of nylon is because it's a cheap, easy material that I can use to isolate each plate so that they're not touching and creating conductivity. Because that would be a dead short to my battery and it wouldn't work out too well, would it? So temporarily, I have some really long 1024 zinc bolts that I got through the 3 holes that I'm not going to be drilling to try to keep the plates lined up while I drill the holes out. This is just going to speed up the process for me. Alright, and there you have it. All the holes drilled out successfully, and now my nylon 1/4 inch stock fits in there. So now I can bring this project indoors and start building my cell. Okay, my next step was to just take some light grit sandpaper and sand down the front and back of every one of the plates. And I also made sure to scratch the model number, which was printed on ink on the back of it. I scratched that off as good as I could to get the plates down to nothing but bare metal. And now I can start assembling and see what happens. Okay, and here's the base start template to my wet cell. All I did was stick the 1/4 inch bolts up through the back of the plate, and I'm going to be laying down 4 washers on every single one of the plates so that the plates aren't touching. I have a plate on the bottom of that right now just so the bolts are sticking out straight, but that's just temporary. So I'm going to keep repeating this step and laying another plate over it until I have all my plates lined up. Alright, and there you have it. Here's the basis of my cell and what it's going to look like when it's complete. As you can see, I have 6 plates going in one direction, and I have a center point, and then I have the other 6 plates going in the other direction. Now the reason I did that, just to make it a little bit easier to make my positive connection, which is going to be these 2 center plates, and then I'm going to make a negative connection on this side, and a negative connection on this side, and I'm going to have 2 negatives coming out and a positive in the center. This is just the way that I've decided to do it. This is my first build. I'm no professional at this at all. So let's test it out and see if it effectively generates hydrogen. Alright, and there you have it. My cell is ready for a test ride. And before you say it, yes, I'm using crimp terminals, but they are only temporary. And they're temporary for one reason, because they will corrode and they will short out and they'll make the cell useless. So this will not be a completion. This will not stay in the cell. This will not get submerged fully. This is just for a test run. I have my 2 negatives in place. I used a green instead of a black because I just didn't have it. And okay, I have a 12 volt, 12 amp hour sealed lead acid battery, and I have a turning watts up meter so I can find out how many amps and volts and all that good watt hour stuff. So what I'm going to do is hook that watt meter in line with my battery pack and output the power to the wet cell. Right now I have it half submerged, and I mixed up my sodium hydroxide, and we're going to see what happens. And there you have it. The cell is actually working. It's doing something. If you look down here on my watt meter, 11.55 volts, drawing a little over 6 amps. I think I might need to up my mixture. But you can see it bubbling, and it's not really creating any mist or hydrogen or actually gas that I can see. It might be happening, it's just coming out into the air here. Looks like my battery's not really charged. I took it off my charger, it was only at 50%. Okay, so after the first test run, I didn't like the results, obviously, so I decided to add more water, almost fully submerged, and I added also more chemical lye, sodium hydroxide. I also have a charger on my battery, which is also putting out 6 amps of power, so let's see what happens now. Alright, it's still seems to be around the same results. It's drawing almost 9 amps now. It did off the start, and it's still only at 11.3 volts, so it's still sagging down. Let me try to up the amperage on my charger here. It's now putting out 6 amps instead of 2. It's bringing my battery voltage up right now. And as you can see, we now have foam. More foam. Something's missing. Alright, it's completely underwater right now, and I actually think it might be bubbling some hydrogen up to the top. 11.4 volts, 12.8 amps now. It used to only be at around 7 or 8. Yeah, I think it's working. I don't think I have enough sodium hydroxide in it right now with how much water's in this darn bowl. A ton of it. Alright, she's working pretty good now. Let the chemicals sit for a while. What do we got here? 12 volts. Almost 15.5 amps. Ooh, it's starting to bubble real good now. That just scared me. That's funny. Well, it's doing its job. Wow. I'm gonna undo this. It's getting a little too much for me. Wow.